You know, a movie has achieved a very special kind of cinematic sainthood when it's both forgotten by the masses and worshipped by film nerds like it's the fifth gospel of science fiction. And that's Dark City, a movie that showed up in 1998, whispered, "Reality is a lie," tripped over the box office, and then quietly inspired an entire genre on its way down. When Dark City hit theaters, it wasn't just a flop, it was a cosmic flop, a stylish, brooding noir sci-fi fever dream that was dumped into theaters with the enthusiasm of a dentist delivering bad news. And the real tragedy? It deserved better. So much better. Because while audiences were confused and critics were intrigued, the studio looked at this brilliant, existential, reality-warping epic and said, what if we spoiled the twist in the first 2 minutes? And then they did, with a voiceover. The cinematic equivalent of posting a spoiler in a group chat and then saying, "Oops," it was a massacre. A soft, moody, gothic massacre. But here's the twist. This movie absolutely slaps. It's gorgeous. It's ambitious. It's weird in the best way. It's like if Kafka, Raymond Chandler, and a goth kid in algebra class made a baby, and that baby was raised by aliens who don't quite understand human emotions. So let's take a walk through the shadows. The movie starts with John Murdoch, a man who wakes up naked in a bathtub, confused, amnesiac, and emotionally done with everything, as if he's emerging from the world's worst bath bomb commercial. He gets a phone call from a frantic man named Dr. Schreiber, who sounds like he should not legally be allowed near sharp objects, let alone science. Schreiber screams at him to run because some pale, trench-coated creeps are coming for him. And then Murdoch finds a dead woman in his hotel room. A murdered woman. A ritualistic, creepy, very not ideal way to start your day. So naturally, he flees. Just as the creepiest men in cinema history enter the room, the strangers. Imagine if Nosferatu joined a goth mafia. That's them, pale, bald, whispering like they're all going through puberty at the same time. And they can bend reality, literally reshape buildings with their minds. Meanwhile, the cops think Murdoch is a serial killer, including Inspector Bumstead, a man who looks like he hasn't slept since the Great Depression. But Murdoch isn't a killer. He's a mystery, a glitch in the system. Because, plot twist, he can do what the strangers do. He can tune, he can change reality, and he has no idea why. The whole city is strange. It's always night. No one notices. Every night at midnight, everyone falls unconscious like someone hit the world's biggest off switch, and the strangers rearrange the city like a dollhouse. People get new memories, new lives, new identities, and absolutely zero say in the matter. Murdoch tries to escape to a place called Shell Beach, which everyone remembers but no one can locate. Like a collective Mandela effect. Meanwhile, the strangers create a creepy clone of him, Mr. Hand, by injecting themselves with his stolen memories, hoping to think like Murdoch. Spoiler, it does not work. He becomes the world's most deranged stalker instead. Eventually, Murdoch gets caught, but not by the strangers, by Bumstead. And instead of arresting him, Bumstead has a mental breakdown and admits none of this makes sense. So they track down Dr. Schreiber for answers. And that's when the movie finally says, all right, let's get weird. Schreiber explains everything. The strangers are dying aliens. They possess human corpses. They share a hive mind. They abducted humans. They created this city as a giant science experiment. They're trying to understand humanity. They randomly swap people's identities every night. Murdoch woke up before they could rewrite him. And that, my friends, is when Murdoch says, cool, time to break the universe. He and Bumstead attempt to reach Shell Beach and end up punching through a wall. A literal wall. And behind it, space. The city isn't even a city. It's a giant alien hamster cage floating in the void. The strangers capture Murdoch, drag him underground, and try to reprogram him with all their memories at once. But Schreiber sabotages them. He injects Murdoch with knowledge, power, everything he needs to fight back. Murdoch wakes up and goes full psychic superhero mode, battling the strangers in a telekinetic showdown above the city that looks like a noir remake of Dragon Ball Z. He defeats their leader, Mr. Book, and becomes God. Not metaphorically. Literally. He reshapes the city, creates a real Shell Beach, floods the world with sunlight for the first time ever, and then meets Emma, now a woman with entirely new memories named Anna, and they start again from scratch. It's tragic. It's beautiful. It's poetic. It's deeply upsetting if you think about it for too long. The ending says, your identity is not your memories, it's your choices, your essence, your soul. And Murdoch finally chooses who he wants to be. When you think about it, there's something hypnotic about the way Dark City folds its symbolism into every shadow, every hallway, every abruptly rearranged skyline. It never raises a hand and says, pay attention, this is a metaphor. No, it simply breathes metaphor. It invites you into a world where nothing is quite what it seems, and then gently or violently suggests that everything you're seeing is secretly about you. The city itself is the first great illusion. On the surface, it's a Gothic sprawl of perpetual night, a place where architecture grows like fungi and alleys twist like recurring nightmares. But underneath all that, it becomes something bigger. The city is a machine, a grinder, a cold, unfeeling system that constantly rearranges people's identities without asking them what they want. And if that sounds a little like capitalism wearing a fedora and smoking a long cigarette, well, that's because it is. And then there are the strangers, the pale, whispering puppet masters lurking in the dark like Nosferatu-discovered trenchcoats. They represent every faceless authority you've ever feared. Governments that rewrite history, corporations that reduce people to data, institutions that press down on the individual until identity becomes a myth. They aren't evil for the sake of evil. They're worse. They're indifferent. The memory swapping becomes another layer in this psychological labyrinth. It asks the most uncomfortable question a human can face. If your memories were taken away, who would you be? Are you still you without your past? Without your relationships? Without the stories others use to define you? And always in the distance, there is Shell Beach, the place everyone remembers but nobody can reach. It's the ultimate carrot on a stick, dangled by a manipulative universe. A symbol of hope, a dream you swear you've held, but when you try to touch it, it vanishes behind a wall. Then there's John Murdoch, our anomaly, our glitch in the cosmic program. He becomes the embodiment of free will, the one thing the strangers can't bottle, label, or rearrange at midnight. So when you watch Dark City, you're not just watching a man run from aliens. You're watching a philosophical brawl between individuality and control. It's psychological, philosophical, noir-drenched existentialism wearing an overcoat. It was undeniably brilliant. But brilliance alone doesn't save a movie, especially not in 1998, when Hollywood studios were still trying to sell anything that wasn't a romance, a big studio comedy, or a summer blockbuster. So despite its depth, its beauty, and its audacity, Dark City stumbled right out of the gate. And the reason wasn't the movie or critics. It was the marketing, which treated this revolutionary piece of art like a quaint little thriller that maybe, possibly, might interest you if nothing else was playing. The trailers were vague to the point of being unhelpful. The posters said nothing meaningful. The studio couldn't decide whether to sell it as noir, horror, sci-fi, or philosophical puzzle, so they sold it as nothing. And then, in a move that should probably be illegal, they added that opening narration that spoiled the central mystery. Imagine opening The Sixth Sense with Bruce Willis saying, "So anyway, I'm dead." That's what happened to Dark City. Add to that the lack of a bankable star and the February release date, Hollywood's cinematic graveyard, and the film never stood a chance. But the final nail in the coffin was simply this. Audiences weren't ready. Simulation theory? Identity manipulation? A city that rearranges itself? In 1998, this was fringe. Too strange. Too smart. Too early. And then, as if the universe wanted to prove timing is everything, 1 year later, wearing shiny black leather and the confidence of a movie that knows it's about to change cinema, The Matrix strutted in. When The Matrix arrived, it kicked down the door. It took every concept Dark City explored, reality manipulation, identity crisis, philosophical dread, and presented it in a sleek, instantly iconic package. You had Trinity defying gravity. You had Keanu Reeves stopping bullets. You had kung fu training montages, sunglasses, leather coats that turned goth fashion into religion. And most importantly, it had clarity. What if reality is fake? Boom. Perfect. Marketable. Meanwhile, Dark City was whispering, reality is fake, but also it's run by decaying alien necromancers dressed like Victorian funeral directors. And the city moves like a haunted Rubik's Cube. And memory is a lie, and your wife might not be your wife, and wait, come back. The Matrix said, take the red pill. Elegant, simple, sexy. Dark City was philosophy in a trench coat. The Matrix was philosophy with gunfights, and audiences flocked to the latter. But here's the irony. Without Dark City, The Matrix wouldn't exist in the form we know. It's the stylistic, thematic, spiritual, older sibling. And today, revisiting Dark City, you realize something magical. The world wasn't ready then. But now? Now, it's a masterpiece finally shining in the sunlight. Murdoch brought into existence. Some movies fail because they're bad. Dark City failed because it was too good for the world that received it. Its marketing was mishandled badly, and even though a lucky few loved it on release, many others either skipped it or never even heard of it. So, it failed. But for those who discover it now, Dark City isn't a flop. It's a revelation, a whispered secret, a hidden sunrise in a world that's always asleep. A movie that dared to ask, who are you really when everything else is an illusion? And then it answered, whoever you choose to be.